Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. Because this is the first video that I'm making, I want to give a little introduction to me. Even though if you found this video, you probably know me or what school I go to and what type of program I'm in. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Amanda Cohen and I'm currently a second year in the Sophie Davis BSMD program. I host a podcast called Before the White Coat where I have a real and honest conversation about what the BSMD and pre-med journey looks like. And I'm also very active on my TikTok and my Instagram. Those will all be linked down below if you want to go check them out after this video. But today I wanted to come on here and answer some of your guys' questions about BSMD programs. So what I did was I went on Reddit, went to the r/BSMD subgroup, and I asked you guys to give me some questions that I could answer for my YouTube channel. So today I am very excited to be answering all of your questions and hopefully giving you guys some advice for your interviews or your upcoming BSMD/pre-med journey. Before I start giving you guys all of this advice, I want to preface that I am not on any sort of admissions board for the Sophie Davis BSMD program or anything like that. This is just my personal opinion, and as a student here, this is the advice that I would give to people applying. The first question that I got was, what were my stats/extracurriculars to get into Sophie or a BSMD program? Now, this is a very common question that I know a lot of high school students will ask when applying to BSMD programs. Of course, they're looking for people to have the grades. Everyone kind of has the grades who are applying. So it goes down to those extracurriculars that make you stand out. But I want to remind you guys that I did not graduate valedictorian or salutatorian from my high school, but my high school did not do class rank. However, we did percentile and I was in the top 10% of my class. I'm probably going to make a separate video going really into all of my stats, but I took AP World, Lang, Bio, Stats, Psych, Physics, Lit? Not me asking you guys like you would know. I think I took 7 AP classes, I believe, and a few other college level courses. And the science APs that I took were AP Biology and AP Physics 1, and I took AP Statistics. And I thought that those 3 APs specifically were very important for my science knowledge and to show the BSMD admissions committee that I was committed to science. In terms of extracurriculars, I was involved in my high school's research program all 4 years of high school, and I think that made me stand out very much on my application. I got to do my own research project with a highly talented mentor who I still keep in touch with today, and I really look up to. I was also given the opportunity to present my research at a few science fairs, I believe that they are, in my county, and I was also awarded at one of them. Other extracurriculars that I did were volunteering at hospitals, volunteering at surgical care centers, and I also was a volunteer coach for softball because I played softball all of my life, and it meant a lot for me to give back to my community in that way. I also was a part of a lot of clubs and sports teams in high school. Like I mentioned, I played varsity softball for all 4 years of high school. I played varsity tennis for 2 years, and I was captain in both of those sports. I was involved in pretty much every honor society that my high school provided. I was also a founding member of a club called Let Girls Lead in my high school, and I was also a representative for my class. Another extracurricular that I did was I was a lifeguard for about 3 years before coming into Sophie Davis. And obviously that looks really good because I had to be CPR certified and know how to take care of people just in case anything happened. I also tutored in high school and I continue to tutor. So yeah, those are pretty much my stats and extracurriculars. I feel like when it comes down to those, everybody has kind of a unique standpoint on it. Like I know a lot of people in the program have been EMTs and gotten a lot of volunteer and medical exposure that way. But there are a ton of extracurriculars out there. And if you're involved, if you have a leadership position, then those are perfect. That is gold for the admissions committee. And that kind of brings me into the next question that somebody asked, which was, how important would you consider research as an extracurricular/award for BSMDs? How about activities that don't relate to medicine? Are they any use at all in adding to an application? I think research is a great way to stand out on your application because it shows the admissions that you're taking an initiative for science very, very early. To have done research in high school, I feel is a big thing. And I know that a lot of schools don't offer research programs, but to stand out on your BSMD applications, I think it is a really, really good extracurricular to have. And awards are just a cool little bonus. For me, I got the Momentive Women in Science Award at one of the research fairs I presented at, so that was really cool to add to my application. And talking about activities that don't relate to medicine, like I mentioned, I was involved in sports, I was involved in other clubs, And I think that they're fine to mention, especially if you had leadership roles in them. Those are really, really great to show the admissions committee that you can be a leader. Because becoming a physician, yes, it's about teamwork, but it also is about having the initiative yourself. Also, for these activities that aren't technically related to medicine, if you've been doing them for a long time, that also stands out. Admissions committees from any college really want to see that you're committed to things or dedicated for a really long time. So if you're passionate about something, definitely include it, especially if you've been doing it for quite a while now. Somebody else asked, how many students are in each cohort? Are there more students accepted than the actual class size? And do most students dorm or is commuting to campus common? So for Sophie, and this definitely varies on the BSMD program because I know I applied to 3 programs and I know some of them literally had less than 20 seats, if that. So Sophie takes between, I want to say like 90 to 100 kids each year. And I guess it fluctuates just a little bit every cohort size. I don't want to necessarily say yes or no because I feel like the number is usually around the same. I believe in my cohort, we had about 96 students, if I'm correct. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but I feel like it usually is around there. I replied to this person about dorming and commuting. I said it was about like a 60-40-ish, maybe a 70-30 of the students that commute to the students that dorm. Personally, I dormed my first year. I lived in the Towers, which is right on the City College campus. And I know a bunch of my friends did, a bunch of my classmates did, and a bunch of upper years do as well. And then after dorming, what will happen is those students will usually try to find an apartment after, and they'll live pretty close to campus, but not directly on it necessarily. But I would say that there are a good portion of students that also still commute. They also asked, what day did my acceptance come? Is it usually before April 1st or on April 1st? When they sent me this, I had to actually go back into my email and find my acceptance letter. And it was on March 29th that I received my acceptance letter. So I guess it came a little bit before April 1st. I'm not too sure if it will always be that way, but I would say that acceptances come either very late March or early April. So you have about a month if you've applied to go and check your inboxes, and I wish you the best of luck. Someone else asked, how did you prep for your interview? This is a great question. I love this question. I was definitely nervous when I found out I got an interview because the way that my program does it is they send you an email the week before your scheduled interview and they're like, we're really interested in you and we want to give you an interview. And you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. You don't really believe it at first, but you have to believe it because you have to be there in like a week. So they'll send you a time, a date, and show up. The way I prepared for my interview was I kind of wrote down a bunch of mock questions that I thought they could maybe ask me. I knew my application like the back of my hand because I thought that my application was going to be the focus of the interview and that they were going to ask me a lot about the stuff that I did. And while that's definitely true, you should know your application. They also want to know who you are outside of that. So I kind of want to get a sense of your personality, just to make sure that you'd be a good, mature fit for this program. I wrote back to this person to definitely dress professionally, be confident, and remind yourself that, you know, they saw something in you, they wanted to interview you, they want to potentially give you a spot in this program. So yeah, remain confident. Just know that you are definitely capable. In terms of the interview process, you're going to get 3 interviews. The first is from a student, likely a medical student, who is kind of there to just calm your nerves, I would say. The medical student will ask you a bunch of different questions. I remember getting asked all of the AP science courses I took and some of the extracurriculars that I did. But they're mainly there to just calm your nerves, have you be settled so that you can go to your other 2 interviews and be super prepared. The second interview was a member of the Sophie faculty. For me, it was the Dean of Housing. And I just remember having a really good conversation with him. I remember him asking me a lot about my application and a little bit beyond that, which was really nice and refreshing. And it just felt like a really honest conversation that we were having. So I think that that's a really good tip to make sure that you're having a good conversation and you're not just being kind of robotic or maybe monotone. You should obviously display your passion for medicine, but it should go beyond your application. And the last interview that I got was from a dean. Mine was with the Dean of Student Affairs, and I currently have a really good relationship with that dean now, as do a lot of the other students. And again, just having a good conversation, being able to answer all of their questions fully, and showing your passion for medicine is really important. I would say that the last 2 interviews matter more than your first interview, so make sure to get all those jitters out before you actually go in front of the staff. Another question was, are there interview invites rolling? Like if somebody hasn't heard anything from Sophie until now, is that a bad thing? Yes, the interviews are rolling. They roll from January to mid-March, I believe. So if you haven't gotten anything yet, definitely don't be discouraged and keep checking your inbox. I'm pretty sure I got my interview on March 7th, I think. Another question was, is it basically impossible for an out-of-state student to get in? I'm gonna say no. That it is not impossible to get into Sophie as an out-of-state student. There are a few students in my year that are out of state, but the number compared to in-state students is much, much smaller. So I'm not gonna say that it's impossible because it's definitely not, but I know that the majority of students applying and the majority of students that get in are from in-state. Somebody asked, what is the workload and extracurricular balancing like? So I talk about this a lot in my TikToks and on my podcast because it is super important to balance the intense workload and your extracurriculars. It's all about making a routine for yourself and managing your time and finding out what type of schedule really works for you. It definitely takes some time to adjust to this workload, at least in my opinion. It's very different from a high school experience, but you just have to make school your number one priority. But it's definitely possible to have time for yourself and make time for you to be social. And the last question someone asked was, can you tell me about transferring into the program plus any insights? To transfer into Sophie, you can only apply if you've completed just one semester of college level coursework. And then if you're accepted into the program, you enter through the first year, regardless of what classes you took in that first semester. And it's definitely not an impossible thing to do. There are a few transfer students in each cohort, I believe. There are a few in mine. So definitely don't be discouraged and still send in that application if you've only done one semester. So those are all of the questions that I received, and I really hope that all of this information was super helpful to anyone looking to apply to BSMD programs or have already applied and are just looking for more information. And thank you guys so much for joining me. Make sure to check out all of my other socials, link in bio, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.